Hello. So in this video we're going to talk about Daniel David Moses's play Almighty Voice and His Wife. So this is a play of two halves. The first half is a largely realistic historical drama about Almighty Voice, who in 1895 in Saskatchewan killed a cow belonging to the government, and he was then arrested. He escaped, and he began a sort of outlaw mini rebellion, basically in resistance to the Canadian government and the Mounties, before he was finally killed by the Mounties in 1897. So Moses dramatizes actually more the relationship with his wife, White Girl, than necessarily the political component or the resistance component. But that relationship is marked by resistance, is marked by cultural resistance, ideological resistance, and this sort of continual threat of both physical and cultural destruction. Then the second half of the play is a kind of weird variety show, dream play type deal, where the ghost of Almighty Voice is interacting with the interlocutor, who again is this sort of weird host of a show, almost an Old West medicine show kind of deal. So these are significant. Each of these halves is significant in its own way. The first half because it dramatizes the actual forces of settler colonialism arrayed against First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples, as well as Native Americans in the U.S. The second half, because it draws on these sort of stereotypes of indigenous dances, of the cigar store Indian, and all of these things, it's more a critique or a satire of the social and media constructed conceptions of indigenous cultures. So there's a couple of really interesting bits and pieces here. Especially in the first half, we get some very overt political statements from Almighty Voice. One of them, White Girl is thinking that he's safe with her, that they're able to sort of avoid the Mounties. Almighty Voice says, "They always come after you. My dad's in jail at Prince Albert over the pieces of a plow. He hates their stupid farming, this stupid reserve. They even turned the prairie into a jail." So that's a great line. They even turned the prairie into a jail. That's a great indictment of the Canadian judicial and military conquest of Canada, and the way that it not only destroyed indigenous cultures by trying to force indigenous people to become sort of European-style agriculturalists rather than semi-agricultural hunter-gatherers, as many First Nations peoples had been for thousands of years. But it also represents that sort of physical restraint. But we also have critiques in this first half of cultural genocide. And there's this really interesting section, because White Girl has been sent to a residential school, which we now increasingly know were places of incredible violence, sexual violence, physical violence, even murder, because just, I think, maybe 2 weeks ago from when I'm filming this, which will probably be about 3 or 4 weeks before this, before when this goes up, there was I want to say it was like 120 something skeletons of children found at a residence school in Kamloops. People whose deaths had never been recorded or officially reported. So, I mean, these were places of incredible violence in addition to cultural destruction. So, White Girl in the residence school was renamed Marie, and Almighty Voice was renamed Jean Baptiste or John Baptist. And so we have and so like White Girl especially has this very difficult relationship with Christianity and with the idea of her identity and the Christian God as a vengeful God. And so we have this section here, and I think this is part of a larger section, but I think this is a really interesting segment of it. She says, it's the bad medicine. They gave me another name when I married their God. Almighty Voice says, shut up about their God. I don't want to hear it. White Girl says, they called me Marie. It's the name of their God's mother. Almighty Voice says, what's wrong with White Girl? White Girl's a good name. They're so stupid. That agent has to call me John Baptist so I can get my treaty money. White Girl says, John Baptist. That's the name of one of their ghosts. Almighty Voice says, I'm no ghost. I'm Almighty Voice. Why can't they say Almighty Voice? White Girl says, I'll call you John Baptist too. Almighty Voice says, you're not the agent, you're my wife. White Girl says, it's so he'll kill the ghost instead of you, husband. That God won't know it's us if we use their names. Almighty Voice says, so I have to call my wife Marie? White Girl says, yes, their God won't be able to touch us. Just call me Marie. So White Girl is clearly terrified of the Christian God, which makes a lot of sense because in residential schools, religion was used as a tool to erase indigenous cultures and identities through terror, basically. I mean, it was religion. It was psychological abuse in the guise of religion. And so she's terrified that God will destroy them. And so she tries to use the tools of this Christian society, the names that have been forced on them, to escape, essentially, from this Christian world that she's experienced. So we get that critique, those very direct critiques, in the first half. And then in the second half, things get more surrealistic, almost, or absurdist. Because again, we have this structure of... So I'll just read this bit here, because this bit actually sort of introduces the idea of the variety show. So the ghost says, how did I get here? What's going on? And the interlocutor says, what's going on? The show. The Red and White Victoria Regina Spirit Revival Show. These fine, kind folks want to know the truth, the amazing details and circumstances behind your savagely beautiful appearance. They also want to be entertained and enlightened and maybe a bit thrilled, just a goose if frightened. They want to laugh and cry, they want to know the facts, and it's up to you and me to try and lie that convincingly. So we get, this weird stage variety Old West type show where they do all kinds of different performances, little mini plays, native dances, they do skits, they do these sort of comedy routines. There's a lot of sort of back and forth, very quick dialogue, comic dialogue, in the vein of people like Abbott and Costello. So we get all of that, and it's again a satire on these traditional racist representations of indigenous peoples. But then we get to the last scene of the play, scene 9. It says, the lights shift from variety to spectral as the spotlight finds the placard, scene 9, finale. Interlocutor says, who am I? Do you know? Ghost says, I recognized you by your eyes. Interlocutor, who am I? Ghost, white girl, my white girl. Interlocutor, who? Who is that? Ghost, my fierce, crazy little girl, my wife. Ni wikiwakum, wikimakum. I don't know. I don't speak Cree, so I'm sorry. I probably pronounced that wrong. But it translates as my wife. Then stage directions say, the interlocutor touches her face with her gloved hands as the ghost embraces and releases her. The spotlight finds her face as her gloved hands begin to wipe the white face off, unmasking the woman inside. The ghost removes one glove and throws it onto the dead fire. She does the same with the other. The fire rekindles. Again, this is Cree. I'm not going to read the Cree. I'm just going to read the English translations. I'm sorry. So Ghost says, I have to go finish dancing now. Interlocutor says, goodbye, almighty voice. And then the stage directions say, the ghost goes and dances in celebration to a drum. The woman removes the rest of the white face and costume, becoming White Girl again. She gathers the costume in her arms as the spotlight drifts away to become a full moon in the night. White Girl lifts a baby-sized bundle to the audience as the ghost continues to dance in the fading lights. So this is a really important ending because we go from this variety show that draws upon and satirizes representations of Indigenous people. We go to this finale where the recognition of one another, the recognition of who each of these people truly is, becomes the sort of first stage toward a return to their own identities, their own culture.